Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, joined by my co-host, Michael Reed, here as well. He has his son with him, of course. The title of tonight's episode is Game 2 in Review, going over the game against Cincinnati, kind of just highlights in the latest news going around the Commanders Nation, really. What's going on, Reed? What would you think of that game the other night? I know you didn't stay up for it.
Yeah, I did. No, I did actually. I watched almost the entire thing. Dude, just the first team offense. Obviously, Jaden get down, slide, but you still love to see that they were moving, and you like the way that they played. Just the play calling with Cliff not having all the starters. They look good, but that defense early on, I know it was tough. It was frustrating. I mean, but the Bengals are a good offense. But dude, they were getting after Joe Burrow. They were going. I mean, shout out Jacob Martin, especially. Jacob Martin played fantastic. You love to see it. You got to see Joe Witt kind of have fun with like Javon Kinlaw and these guys, and that's really what you want to see. It gets you kind of pumped for the season.
Yeah, you definitely saw the AK-47 package at one point. Dorrance, Jerron Payne, and then it was Frankie Louvu, and then Von Miller wasn't there. So I think that they rushed either White. I think it was White who they had rushing on the other side. But after watching that game live was very different from watching it on the All-22. Like, watching it live, I immediately said, as soon as they scored that touchdown, I was like, all right, pull them out. The biggest reason was you had four run plays, and a touchdown. Obviously,
Right.
The touchdown run by Jaden Daniels was supposed to be a pass play. But regardless, I thought that was the most surprising thing from it because, that's something I've been harping on all season, even going back to last season, is they have to be able to run the ball well, fundamentally well, in order to make things easier on Jaden with the play action and everything like that. And obviously they achieved that against Cincinnati. I guess my biggest question after watching the first team offense versus Cincinnati is, are the Bengals that bad or is our run game that good?
Yeah, it's probably a combination of things. It's only preseason, the second week of the preseason, but the Bengals, I understand they're notoriously slow starters. For the last 3 years, that's especially last year, that bit them in the ass. Them getting off to that slow start. So I get why they're keeping their starters in there for so long. But to see that with our run game doing that against basically their first team defense, it was pretty exciting, especially on that Bill touchdown run, that counter trade, just that classic Joe Gibbs, just getting you excited. You see Wiley going out there. By the way, shout out to Wiley. Played well. He's going to be huge on this offensive line with his versatility, that being able to play tackle and guard. And it's beautiful, Kyle. It is beautiful. And I think that this kid thinks it's beautiful as well.
Yes, and I said it that night when I uploaded the clip or reposted the clip from the Commanders. That touchdown run by Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt, I know everyone is talking about hey, look at Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt, but that's one of those situations I talk about where the offensive line made that happen. Literally nobody touched him until he was at the 1 yard line, if not the end zone. Right. And a lot of credit goes out to John Bates. He was doing his Mike.
He blocked 2 people on that one play.
I know he was doing his Mike Reed impression, taking on 2 guys at once.
Two dudes at one time, just slamming 2 dudes.
He killed it, man. That block. When I go back and watch it, it sprung everything because every run play, your offense is basically saying to your running back, best case scenario here is that you have one man to beat. And if you can make a move on that man, you can be able to go for 6 points. They didn't even ask that for Ja'Cory Crosskey-Merritt on that run. He didn't have to worry about any defender until he was in the end zone. But I think that was huge. On top of the Chris Rodriguez huge run that he had early, I thought that one was absolutely incredible. And I had uploaded that in a slow-mo type of way on Twitter, showing that John Bates turning around to get that D end, and then badass absolutely whooping up on the linebacker at the second level. Chris Rodriguez navigating through the blocks to be able to make it a legit run because he almost had to bend his body to be able to get back inside to be able to navigate through, and then just turned on the jets, which was something that I thought was very, very surprising. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even just the way Josh Connerly played the entire time, and Nick Akridge, shout out to Nick. Shame, you gotta chill, bud. This isn't what you think. We're not just looking at taking videos of ourselves. He Nick Akridge was saying that he was like he nothing really jumped out, but that it's in a good way. Like it was like you didn't see him get. He just said went out there, he did his job. I think he said he possibly got beat once, and even when he was beat, it wasn't necessarily his fault. Like it could have been a multitude of reasons. So you really got to feel confident with the way he's coming around at right tackle. Because I mean, you got that, you got the left side secured. I'm just getting pumped, Kyle. James, you got to chill, dog.
Yeah, and look, as much as everyone like, I looked at our points for like it's bad, like our points for and against. Certainly this preseason so far, we have not been on the winning side overall. But I think that them starting the starters on offense, meaning the Bengals, going against our twos and threes at times. I wanted to hand out game beers, and to start it off, I have to say it's Kane Medrano, aka Bane. What he has shown on film is absolutely incredible. Very quick, fluid, smooth hips and transitioning and pass coverage, being able to cover a lot of ground. I uploaded a couple videos of him on Twitter. And then Javon Kinlaw, I think, deserves a beer. I uploaded that clip to Instagram and Twitter, but absolute monster on the goal line there, completely abusing number 62 and being able to tackle the running back. I think that was one that I think the fan base needed to see because they've kind of kept the wraps on Javon Kinlaw. They unleashed him against Cincinnati, and he obviously made his mark like Godzilla.
Oh yeah, yeah. And on top of it, also, I mean, on the defensive side, Quan had a hell of a play on that drive where on fourth and goal. Was that it was fourth and goal there or third and goal? One of
It
those where
was
he
third and
stopped.
goal.
Third and goal. And then also Jacob Martin. Jacob Martin played fantastic. I completely forgot about Jacob Martin. I remember signing him, and I know Bears fans were super upset when we signed him because he was a guy that they really liked, even though he was a backup, but he was a solid all around player. And he went out there, he showed out, did his thing.
That is definitely your child, without a doubt. Yeah, and obviously Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt deserves one. Now that he got his game ball, of course. But another guy was Jalen Lane, my boy, absolutely showing out. And it's funny because when we recorded on Sunday, I made a comment to you guys that because Terry McLaurin isn't there, I would love to be able to see Jalen Lane working in that role of Terry McLaurin. And Dan Quinn, after the fact, after the game in his post-game presser, talks about they used Jalen Lane on the outside, which is not normally where they've been having to use him to see how he would do. And I'd be honest, I'm gonna be honest, I think he did a great job on the outside, given that he doesn't have a lot of history there.
Yeah, and he's because I mean he can do anything. He's athletic enough. I mean, I know you're a big Virginia Tech guy, Kyle, but let's be honest. You know, Virginia Tech. It's not like he's really played with many quarterbacks that have. You know,
No, that
James, they like your trains. It's cool. But so you can really kind of experiment with him, and we haven't seen everything that he can do yet. So like being able to kind of maneuver him around, I think is going to be huge because Jalen playing. Just look at some of those routes that he ran, and then that diving catch. Like that dude's got a lot of potential with his natural athleticism.
Yeah, and going back to last year with Virginia Tech, I think he went to Georgia Tech previously before that, before he transferred to Virginia Tech. But the Virginia Tech is famous for not being able to really progress quarterbacks. Between
Right.
Mike Vick and Tyrod Taylor, like really none
Yeah.
have really blossomed. All respect to my boy Logan Thomas, but let's be honest here, it's not like he progressed at Virginia Tech as a quarterback. Obviously, those guys stand out a heck of a whole lot. What are some guys that you think that left something to be desired?
Look, I don't want to. I didn't want to be the one to say it. You made me say it. This guy's got it all. You know, Sam Hartman is a beautiful, beautiful man. He's got the looks. He's got the tattoos. He's got the great hair. He's got the great beard. The only problem with Sam Hartman is that the forward pass was introduced to football in 1906. And that's really his only crutch. That's his biggest flaw is the fact that he can't play quarterback. If there's a race for the quarterback three position, yeah, I think so far. I mean, obviously you got to give it to Josh Johnson. But either way, I do really like Sam Hartman. I think that you can keep him around. He's good friends with Jaden. I mean, you can keep him on the practice squad. Yeah, and plus he brings girls to the games. I'm sure brings a whole new set of a whole new group of eyes. But other than him, I know you. It's not necessarily his fault, Luke McCaffrey's fault for not putting up much, but you do want to see. But like Nick Akers again, he posted videos of Luke. He didn't do a terrible job getting open like on some plays, but still just he's not getting the ball. So I don't know. what's going on there. I know that it's not like they're avoiding him, but you just want to see more from
Well, and especially that one that Nick uploaded with Luke McCaffrey running that fade, that go route,
him.
having
Right,
a
right.
step or two. At that point, to be honest with you, man, I don't think that they were worried about that route, and that's why they were giving it up.
Right.
Because at quarterback, we have to be honest. Josh Johnson was 6 of 9 for 56 yards for an interception.
Yeah.
Sam Hartman was 4 of 10 for 29 yards and one interception. Josh Johnson does allow you more of an opportunity to throw the ball to see what your guys have just a little bit
Yeah.
more. But Sam, it sucks because that shoulder surgery that he had this offseason, he does not
It
look.
seems like his arm is, yeah, he doesn't have any zip necessarily on his passes.
It's not even just that. It just also it seems everything is off. Like that throw he had to
Right.
Jalen Lane, right there early on when he comes in with Jalen Lane. There was like a quick dig route, and he throws it to Jalen, and the DB nearly intercepts it. Like it's on our basically in our end zone, around the 5-10 yard line. It was around that area. DB dropped it. But it's like that sort of play is that has to get thrown fast. That ball has to be out by
Right,
the
right.
time that Jalen Lane puts his foot in the dirt to turn around. You don't throw it after he's taken that step and then waiting for it. That DB's going to come up and pick it. And that's what Sam was doing. So that's the
Yeah.
weird part is like it's not just the physical sense, it's also the mental sense. He just seems like it's something that's just not clicking at the
Right.
moment.
Especially because it's year two in Cliff Kingsbury's offense.
Yeah.
It's like you should be. I understand he's young, like I said, but like he went to a brand new offense when he went to Notre Dame first season. I mean, he didn't play bad, so you do wonder what's going on with that if his shoulders are kind of making him hesitate before he. I don't know, but yeah, it sucks because the guy's so goddamn hot. You know what I'm saying? Like that guy. Let me tell you something, Kyle. Sam Hartman. He's a beautiful man. You know, I see. I know you look at him. I know. I see you. I see
All right,
it.
so the PFF grades on offense last night, the highest. Cole Turner, our boy, former guest of this show, with a 91.8.
Damn,
Jaden
did he have
Dan,
that high one?
yeah,
How many snaps did he play?
I'm not sure. I didn't look at it.
Okay,
Of
I
course,
think
you asked me that question. I don't have the answer for it.
no, because couldn't have been too many because I think they posted like a minimum 15 snaps and the highest was probably Percy Butler, I think. But
Okay.
that's good for Cole Turner. Shout out to him.
Well, this
Yeah,
is purely on offense, the highest grader for offense. Jaden Daniels with 85.6, Jalen Lane with a 79.6, Tyler Badass with 72.2, and then John Bates with a 72.1. Absolutely fantastic. Jalen Lane led the team in receptions and receiving yards with 3 receptions for 42 yards. Which is never a great thing to hear about, especially in the preseason game. You like to be able to have the offense open up a little bit, but just
yeah.
was
You'd
not
like to
there.
have Sam Hartman open up a little bit.
Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, 11 carries, 46 yards, and that one touchdown. And then Chris Rodriguez, leading rusher on the day, 6 carries for 62 yards,
Yeah.
average 10 on the ground, obviously by that big run.
So let's with B Rob, obviously, I mean, it looks like things are coming to an end with him. With the way that Rodriguez played very good. We know that they like Jeremy McNichols as well. Do you think that they keep both of them in 4 running backs total, or what do you think's going on there? Because they
So,
both offer something different, McNichols and Rodriguez.
yeah, Colonel has a question for us regarding B Rob, but
Oh,
I
okay.
was going to ask you what your reaction was to the overall news with Brian Robinson. Because
Um,
somebody asked us last pod about this, and we kind of talked about it.
yeah. Well, that's tough, man. Because if some like I know Lake Lewis, shout out to Lake, and a couple of people in the media said that there was an incident in the tunnel after last game, either after or halftime or something, and they didn't elaborate on it. They just said it wasn't good. And it was odd. So that's finding that out. It sucks because you do like B Rob. Obviously, he brings something. He's still young. I mean, this is going to be what year 3 coming up for him, and he's still solid. Like he has so much athleticism in his game, and but it hasn't really clicked together for a full season yet. And so it's frustrating. That does suck. But if you don't want people that don't want to be here that aren't happy with their roles, So if that's what it is, then if he thinks he can do better somewhere else, then all power to him. Man, go ahead and do what you got to do. But yeah, it's frustrating. It sucks seeing that.
Yeah, it's if you've ever had this sort of incident at work, where something like this happens. Typically, if you're in the work, if you're obviously if that's your company
Right.
or you know
Yeah.
the people, you kind of hear about what goes on. But it's one of those things where obviously there was an altercation of some sort.
Yeah.
It not necessarily physical, but it could just been verbal. and just the severing of the ties. Because even John Keim and others have talked about how quickly this happened. This wasn't like something that they have been building up for. This was a very quick, just recent kind of development, what's going on with them. And at this point, it's hard for me to see what's going to go on with him because we don't know exactly what happened and if the relationship is severed. I had said last week or to a couple days ago to Rant Burgundy that like I feel like you're not going to get much in return for B Rob because running backs typically aren't garnered all that much interest.
Right.
And it's not like there's that many teams looking for them because you can always fall back on other
Right.
players, especially older ones like we've seen. And so it's like it's not really a coveted position that you're going to get a lot out of. But that being said, we don't know how dire the situation is. Like
Yeah.
you let him walk if the situation is untenable.
Right.
If there is no way to be able to reconcile this situation, then yeah, you're most likely going to be pigeonholed into that. But if there's something still there, I understand why they would explore trying to trade him instead of allowing him to walk for nothing to at least see what you could possibly get.
Right. And chances are, yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be nothing. They call and on one of the comments last video, I think like an established player who's Pro Bowl level, Joe Mixon. I know he's been banged up, had injury concerns, but last season went for a 6th or 7th to Houston. He's somebody who's already established, so it's like you're not going to get much for B Rob more than likely. But I mean, hey, something's better than nothing if than like as opposed to letting him walk. But chances are, if it's not fixable, like you said, probably is going to end up walking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely seems like the situation is not
Yeah.
fantastic to say the least, and almost mirrored with the Terry McLaurin situation. Of course, everyone kind of complaining about Terry McLaurin not being at the game, supporting his teammates, and Dan Quinn doing a good job in his presser today, being pressed on it, no pun intended, of
Mm.
trying to dissuade everyone from basically that he's not going to play the Where's Waldo game, which I thought was
Yeah.
a fantastic answer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So Dan Quinn's the man. He's so good at handling those situations. But yeah, the Terry thing especially is frustrating if what they're saying right now, like over the last couple of days, is true. Where it's like he's still standing hard on that 33, $34 million average. And it's like, and then like reports are like other GMs around the NFL are saying they're like, I wouldn't put 27, 28 max. So it's like, it's just frustrating to see something like this going on with a guy like Terry, who's always been such a stand-up dude, such a hard worker. He's been, he still is that guy, obviously. But it's like I don't know whether it's just bad advice or he just super, super like he believes what he believes. If so, shout out to him. But it's like, damn, like yeah, I just don't want him to screw himself over in this situation. You know, where like if he has to sit out a year or whatever happens, and then next year he's going to make even less because he's going to be older. He's not, you know, or he has a down year. It just sucks seeing something like this happen with Terry, and I wish that he would just hurry up and get back with the team and then figure it out.
Yeah, kind of like the similar to Lev Bell situation.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Where you just end up screwing yourself.
Yeah, like it was very different with Lev Bell because literally he was their leading like receiver and running
He was
back.
the best running back in the NFL
Yeah,
for sure.
and they
Yeah.
were asking him to do a lot, and he was like, "Look, if you're going to ask me to do all that, then give me the
Yeah.
deal that I want." And
Right.
ended up
Right.
walking away, which ended up hurting him long
He sat out
term.
an entire year, right?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
smart guy
Yeah.
that Lev.
Yeah. He's funny though. Lavelle is pretty funny.
He's got a good Twitter, I will say.
He does. He does.
And I saw that Ian Rappaport had put out on NFL Network when getting interviewed about B Rob, saying other general managers are asking the question,
Like what's
why
going
is
on?
he being shopped?
Yeah.
And I think that is probably the key is something went on and they're trying to figure out what it was because you're not going
Right.
to trade for an asset that could possibly be an issue for you. And
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that after such a good year, like there'd be situations like this in training camp, you know?
Especially yeah. It's right. That's the weird thing. It's like after that year making the NFC Championship game, everybody talking about how fun the team was, how good it was, team players wanted to come here, and then like your two leading skill position players last year. I mean, they both were. I mean, obviously Terry was number one, but B Rob was our starting. He was our number one running back. It's like then your two starting guys are both kind of not there. That's odd. But at the same time, it's like the Terry thing. I can understand that this happens with wide receivers when they want to get paid, but the B Rob thing, it's like the hell? What do you got going on? So I don't know. We haven't heard anything negative about this team, about the locker room and stuff. So it is just weird, but I think it's more just a coincidence than really an indictment of the team.
Yeah, you gotta imagine that B Rob is playing what on like a second round pick contract,
I
right?
think third. He was third,
Third?
right?
Was it
Either
third?
way, but yeah, pretty sure he was. But either way, like one of those. It's not that
Like
different.
that could possibly be walking away from that in the last year when you don't know
Yeah,
what's coming down the line, right? And that's one of those
right.
situations like what the hell went on.
Yeah,
Obviously, somebody is in and not feeling fantastic
yeah,
in the
yeah.
situation.
I mean, it could also be something like maybe I would imagine during camp. I mean, with Bill getting a lot of carries, maybe it's just fighting into his time. Because really, if you've got somebody on first and second down that you like to use, and then Eckler kind of as that third down role, then for B Rob, and then Rodriguez is like a power back. So then it's like B Rob, like where would you even really fit in that case? So maybe the snaps or something. Maybe you just saw the writing on the wall. I don't know, but yeah, it is. It does seem odd.
Yeah, let's answer some fan questions about this. This one was by the Colonel, and we kind of talked about it. He said, any insight on the whole B Rob situation? How and why did he fall out of favor? Why is he trade bait? And what kind of trade are they targeting? The one thing I'll say is, why is this happening? Like, Pedro Smith had posted on Twitter a video of B Rob talking to Ertz in the Detroit game, saying, like, feed me to Ertz. And Ertz is, like, basically just trying to was like, yeah, dude, yeah, like one of those things where it's like you're just trying to get the homeless guy away from you to
Yeah,
stop
yeah,
heckling. You're
yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah,
totally, dude,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
The
Yeah,
stars
for
are
sure.
what,
Yeah, our offense definitely isn't already rolling
yeah,
doing what we're
the
doing.
stars are
So,
definitely recording us, and the birds aren't real. I got you, man. I know, I'm with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was almost sort of in that realm, but we had to consider that we, as much as we see these guys and what is being portrayed of them through social media, we really truly don't know what it's like to be in that locker room in those meetings rooms with them. And that's one of those situations where maybe B Rob is voicing himself saying he wants more, he wants more. And I can understand the coaching staff coming back and saying we're being put at a disadvantage if we're doing that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's not like B Rob has been given the perfect situation. Like if he went to Philly and he was the number one running back for
Yeah.
Philly, I would
Right.
imagine he would probably be more productive.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
and that he wouldn't have to move very much downhill, just run straight at your face and beat the
Yeah.
crap out of you. But I also understand that he didn't do all that much himself to be able to help, and
Yeah.
it's just weird. It's just
That's
weird.
that's the other thing that yeah, like I mean, I would imagine, like I said, like we're talking about like him wanting to be fed more. It's probably is a touches thing. The more that I think about it, I mean, like we talked about the other running backs on the roster, and then you add the Debo wrinkle in there, and then the fact that Jaden's mobile. Like, there's really only so many handoffs that B Rob would even be in place to get right now. You know what I mean? Each week, so it's
Dude, on that contract for a running back, I would say that's fine. Take away my
bro.
touches.
That
We're winning football games.
exactly,
I'll do
yeah.
whatever I can to help
And
you.
and it's like if you have all those other rushing threats, you'd think that that would only make your other carries more impactful because I don't know. I mean, they might not be able to stack boxes, whatever it may be, but some definitely went on. I would imagine there's some argument, there's some rift there between him and somebody, and it's not good. But at the same time, you don't want that to carry over. So if guys, if you want to go, yeah, I mean, just go. We don't want to ruin this. We're trying to build something good here. You know what I mean? You know what
Yep.
I'm saying?
And now the next question from the Colonel. AP is clearly trying to make some last minute tweaks for the roster. Using your GM insight, what is he doing?
I think he is just preparing for the natural scenario. I mean, like bringing in George Font. Like you can never have too many offensive linemen, and especially somebody with experience like that who's played right tackle, who's played left tackle, he's been in the league for a long time. He started. He's been a backup, and I think like that type of move, I think is very smart because you see injuries to the offensive line all the time. You've already seen Tunsil sit out. There's nothing serious there, obviously, but he's missed time. He's missed time each of the last two seasons, at least. You got Cosme coming back from injury. You got Coleman, who can't seem to get off the injured list regularly. So, and then you got a young right tackle. So it's like really the only, while we should be solid at every single position on there, the only one that you could really say, like, for sure, like, we got a stalwart there is center, Biotish. So it's like, you got to bring in depth, just more bodies. There's nothing wrong with that. So I like what he's doing there. In terms of the other stuff with like trying to trade B Rob, you just got to do what you got to do, man. You got to prepare. Like this isn't the final roster. We're still early on in the rebuild, so it's they still got to get their guys in place. So really, whatever you got to do, whatever you can do, I'm all for it. I'm all for AP. I fully trust him.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I do trust him. It's just a lot of it is a hope that these things work out in a personality sort of way
Right,
with the team. We kind of got into it, the Terry situation last week, but especially with these tweaks, like they've been trying to do this. They lost Lucas Niang for the season after like a
right,
week
right.
after they signed him, right? So
Yeah,
obviously that backup tackle position is something that they have been very invested into solidifying, and it seems like they've been snake bitten with injuries in that
right.
sense. But Font obviously has history with Laramie Tunsil, and I would imagine that Laramie is giving some insight into George Font, of course. But it's just another veteran, stable kind of guy that you can plug in case of emergency if you need him because of the injuries up front. We don't know
Yeah.
when Sam Cosby's going to 100% be able to come back and start playing. We don't know what's going on with Brandon Coleman, of course. Allegretti, I think Wiley did a fantastic job at left tackle. Obviously, him being on the move is where he's really at his best, and we got to see that on that counter tray that you talked about earlier on the Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt touchdown. But Chris Paul himself had a fantastic day. I think that he's somebody
Yeah.
that's going to make the team, and he should because he has shown the ability to move in different positions if need be. And he had one pull on a trap on a pass play where I don't know how the heck he did it to the DM, but he stood him up, dude. Had great form, anchored down, and was able to hold him tight so Josh Johnson could get that ball out to Jalen Lane. And I think Chris Paul is deserving of it. Today they released Julian Good Jones. And I'll tell you right now, watching the All 22, I was sitting there saying, what is going on? Like, I hope Allegretti could play backup center. Like, it was that
Right.
bad. Like,
Yeah,
obvious
yeah,
run plays where that is your responsibility, completely whiffing on it, and that's the guy that makes a tackle on the running back sort of things.
yeah.
Not
Right.
even including the botch snap that happened, which was,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as a center, that is the number one thing you cannot do.
Yeah.
Number one thing.
Right. And especially as a backup guy trying to make the roster, it's like you only get a handful of snaps anyway. Towards the end, and you do that always sucks. But back real fast to Wiley, I just want to touch on. People have been talking about releasing Wiley for the last couple of years. They've been like, we need to move on him. Thank God we didn't, because I swear, look, I'm not the biggest Wiley fan, but he is the perfect guy for this team to play what he's playing right now. Like I said, just his experience at both tackle positions and inside at guard. You can put him wherever. I really love the fact that they stuck with him and they're finding a niche for him, especially because he may end up having to start some games at guard early on. Coleman, what James, they like your Thomas voice to do.
He said, I know. And,
Mm-hmm.
and like, that's the thing is when everyone was talking about moving Wiley inside the guard, I was really against it. I was like, heck no, keep him on the outside. There's no reason for him to be on the inside. And obviously, them drafting with Connerly kind of helped out that situation. You see why drafting Connerly was so important right now because if you don't have Laramie starting that preseason game, you feel comfortable with Wiley in case that were to come up. But I would imagine that's why they brought in George Font, Colonel, was so Wiley could be dedicated primarily to that right side or possibly moving inside with whatever happens with Coleman in case of an emergency, a break glass type of situation. But I think that's why George Font is there just to help you another sense that you're not leaning on Wiley a little bit too much for everything. As much as he will be your emergency guy, you don't want to have him be the emergency guy for every single situation, if that makes sense. Last question from the Colonel, Reed. Rumors that Luke McCaffrey is on the bubble. Is this true?
Um, I mean, he could be. I mean, you're getting a lot of guys that are starting to show out a little bit. I mean, Corey Brooks has played fantastic. I mean, obviously Jalen Lane, and then if Noah Brown comes back from injury, I still think that you don't want to cut ties with somebody who drafted in the third round of, what was it, pick 100 or something, who has that much athletic ability. And plus, people got to remember Luke McCaffrey is still learning the wide receiver position. He's only played it for a few years at most. He was a former quarterback. So he's still getting his feet under him, and the talent's there. It's kind of obvious that he's got it. He hasn't shown it necessarily yet, but I don't think he's in danger of getting cut. He would, if they tried to put him on a practice squad or something, I would imagine he'd be snatched up very fast. Like, they're going to find a spot for Luke, I
The
would
one
hope.
the one counter argument to him still learning the wide receiver position is Dom Hampton. Dom Hampton was obviously brought in as a safety. They moved him to
Right.
linebacker, and even though he was performing at linebacker, they still gave him the boot, right? And
But
so,
yeah, but he was a seventh round pick, though.
yeah, but
Wasn't
I'm
he?
just
Six or
saying,
seven. No, I get
that
it for
that
sure. They're
part,
not scared to move on for something. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
But in particular, Luke, I think Luke also offers a special teams ability and kick return. So it's not like it's specifically what he does at wide receiver, of course. Do think he has other areas that he can help out, and that's obviously going to be something that they're going to be concerned
Yeah,
about. Special teams, even Dan Quinn today in his presser talked about how the kickoff and kickoff return are kind of the identity, help with the identity of the football team.
right.
And so if Luke is productive, which we have seen that he is productive as a kickoff returner, especially when Eckler was out, are you really going to move on from that? I would say that regardless, Luke should feel like he's on the bubble. And that's
Right.
the point. Maybe he's
Yeah.
not, but he should in order to get the most out of him.
Yeah.
Similar to Ben Sinnott, Ben on that Debo Samuel run, Ben Sinnott had a fantastic block, be able to help out with that situation. And Debo obviously navigating through the field, but I think Ben Sinnott has gotten a lot better with his blocking. Maybe he hasn't gotten those receptions, and that's not a fault of his own, in my personal opinion. But I think in the blocking game, especially on the stand up, on the line, in line blocking is where he needed to get better, and I did see him get better in that regard. But
Right.
I'll say that the one player I take away from this week's game against the Bengals was Kane Madrano. We
Yeah.
needed to see more consistency, especially after the flashes in the run game. But we saw in all three phases
Dude,
against the
his
Bengals.
athleticism is insane. Just his ability to turn his hips. Like I think you were the one who posted it where he kind of like faked going in like he was going to be blitzing, and then he turned his hips and got back and passed coverage and made the tackle down like 15, 20 yards down the field. It's like his athleticism is so rare. And also, real fast, I just want to say this before I forget it. Luke McCaffrey's a DEI hire at wide receiver.
Stupid. Yeah, because Kane Madrano is lined up as like basically an edge rusher where Frankie Louvu would be at times,
Right,
if
right.
you guys know what I'm talking about. And what he does is he takes 2 steps downfield towards the quarterback and then hits that foot, comes back into coverage because there was a shallow crossing wide receiver. So he drops back to take away that shallow cross. And at that moment, the quarterback, I think it was Browning, starts to unload to the outside on his side. So Kane Madrano flips his hips and then starts running outside. And it was very clean in the way that
So
he was able to
smooth.
transition.
Yeah.
And then he's
It
the
was
one
like
that ends
you
up
when you
making the
transition.
tackle on the play
Yeah.
near the numbers and just
Right.
showing how much ground he covered. And that's not something that, to be honest, I love Bobby Wagner to death. But
Yeah.
that's not something that were
Can't do
used
that
to in the
right now.
past year,
Right.
right? Like that kind of pass coverage. But not only that, in the run game, there was one play where he had a missed tackle in the backfield, and I'm pretty sure they pulled him out of the game as soon as that happened. But I'll say it like I texted it to Logan. I didn't upload it to Twitter, but I asked Logan like as a coach, how would you kind of fix this? Fix this? Because he comes around into the hole from his right to the left, and he is one on one with the running back, and he ends up missing that tackle. And Logan talked about how he's jumping early on in that route, trying to see where the running back is, and because he's antsy, he rushes into the hole. He's out of position, and so the running back just literally dips into the right side, and he misses, and Kane misses the tackle. What Logan's basically saying is, you keep your helmet on the inside of the waist over here on the inside of that running back so he can't come back inside. He has to go in the direction you're going. And also, if you're not so much antsy about it, you're in a better position to make the tackle because you're not running full speed up into it. And that makes a lot of sense. But overall, that was like the worst play I saw of Kane Madrano.
Right.
But overall, like the kid was very much in tune with the run game, was in the mix. Pass a game, he showed flashes. Again with the blitzing. I know you talked about the pass rushers, but in my personal opinion, the pass rush is still not there in a timely manner. What we kind of saw were coverage sacks,
Right.
where the
Yeah. Where it
back
was,
end coverage is very good, and a lot of
that's
credit to Kane Madrano for that, for taking
yeah.
away guys underneath. But
Second
that
down.
was kind of what we saw, and
Yeah.
that's what we want to see a little bit more of. But I did see that Jacob Martin rush where he slaps the left tackle's hands down, gets around very, very quickly. We need more of that. We need more of that.
Yeah. And I do think that that's also like the coverage checks. That's also kind of how they're designing this defense with the talent that they have at corner and safety and stuff. But yeah, back to Kane Madrano, man. It's just, and like you talk about Bobby Wagner. Obviously, Bobby Wagner is a better line. Like the Hall of Famer, he's still top of the line. But like you see why like Ken Norton and these people were very excited that Kane Madrano was still there when they went to pick him. And like the missed tackles thing was big for him in college. But like you see just that athleticism, man. Like that's, you don't have that at the linebacker position, really. I mean, like Frankie Louvu is a good athlete, not like that though. Not like where he can turn it and run and really help out in coverage that way.
You know,
So
the other element of Kane Medrano that I saw in the game was his communication, especially with Will Harris. Will Harris had a fantastic game in the one drive that he was in there. Being able to communicate with Kane Medrano on that goal line where he deflects the pass away from the tight end that should have been a touchdown. But Will Harris just timed it perfectly, dove and smacked the ball out of the tight end's hands. That was going to be a touchdown if it wasn't for Will Harris. And we haven't seen much from him, so it was good to see just a little bit of a glimpse at what he
yeah,
offers. Then obviously Quan Martin showed out. And Quan Martin, and that's the big reason why Joe Wade has talked about him so much, his instincts, football awareness, knowing what's happening, how offensive plays works, what they're trying to do to you, being able to see that and then anticipate it, go up and make a play on the ball to stop the touchdown. You absolutely love to see it from Quan Martin. Obviously, Trey Amos wasn't in the game, which then allowed us to see Noah Igbenogany outside. And Joe Wick kind of talked about with Jalen Lane playing outside. This is a good time just to see what else a guy can do for you, especially against good competition, going against the ones again in Cincinnati, obviously, because Noah isn't slotted as a starter right now. So just good to see what else he could do. And he had that one defensive pass interference penalty on Jamar Chase, which it's kind of
yeah,
difficult.
yeah. I mean, it's Jamar Chase. Also, that's one of those things. Though it is funny. Like my brother was texting me about it, and he was like, I know. He was like, I know. Like when you're playing, like it's you don't mean to grab and stuff, but like, and I've always kind of thought this too. Like it is kind of ridiculous for those penalties to happen, and I know they happen to everybody, but like it is kind of like it's like you've been playing football for like 20 years. You know not to do it. But that's just, hold on, but it's different. Obviously, you can't really. It's the same thing with like I'm like, you guys shoot 1,000 3-pointers a day, and you guys are shooting 30% from three. How is this even humanly possible?
Well,
You know what I mean?
you brought up earlier the Jalen Lane diving catch, which was phenomenal. But if you watch that route, Jalen Lane, when he comes up and to break inside, that DB is holding him. And when Jalen Lane makes the cut to come inside, the DB is holding on to him with one arm, holding on to his jersey. It should have been called. And sometimes they just don't do it. But especially on those go routes going against Jamar Chase, they're going to call it. 9 out of 10 times, they're going to call that deep downfield. It's much more so in the middle is where you could kind of get away with it, of course. But, guys, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much if you made it this far. You're a freaking champion. I'm Kyle.
I'm not sure who I am right now. I'm trying to fix a train for a crying boy.
Make sure you go do that. All right, everybody. We'll see you again on Sunday. Have a good one. Washington
Bye.
football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.